What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Sacred Jedi Texts, and today we are going to be covering Chapter 22 of Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire. So, in Chapter 20, we followed Han and Lando as they met Talon Karrde's contact, and then in Chapter 21, we were in the point of view of Mara Jade and Luke Skywalker. They're preparing for Han and Lando to get there, and they're just trying to make all the proper preparations. Luke was moved to one of the storage containers to where he was locked in, and he was trying to find a way out. Chapter 22, which is where we're at today, is a bit of a longer chapter, but it is absolutely fantastic. And we actually see the events play out through four different point of view characters, all in this one chapter. In my opinion, this chapter is kind of the point in the book where everything starts to come together. It's the oh crap moment of Heir to the Empire, and the point where you know everything is about to hit the fan. But without further ado, let's get into chapter 22. It's a very exciting chapter, and I hope you enjoy it. Make sure you subscribe and leave a like on the video. So let's get into chapter 22. So, as I mentioned, we go through four different point of view characters in this chapter. First, we start out in Han's point of view. He is there on Merkur with Talon Karrde, and he has just given him his presentation on why Karrde needs to work for the New Republic. However, Karrde says that he doesn't think he can accept Han's proposal. He's worried that if he were to work for the New Republic, it would make other parties think that he's taking sides, and the other parties that he's thinking about is obviously the Empire, and more specifically Thrawn. And Thrawn is not an enemy that you want to have, and Karrde knows this. However, Han wants to convince Karrde that they can be protected, but Karrde isn't really buying it. So I don't know at this point if Han just is kind of like accepts his losses, licking his wounds, but he changes the subject that he needs a slicer that can crack diplomatic codes, and he tells Karrde that he was told that Karrde knows somebody. This interests Karrde, and he starts kind of questioning Han, but Han claims that it's just purely personal, it's for personal reasons. Karrde then tells Han that he has one of the best slicers in the entire galaxy there with him on Merkur, and he invites Han to dinner with him where Han and Lando can meet the slicer. Karrde then takes Han and Lando into the main building where Karrde introduces them to three new faces. One man by the name of Wade Warren, one named Chin, and then Ghent, who is the slicer. Mara Jade is also there at the dining table too, and Han remembers her from when they first touched down on Merkur. She was there when Karrde greeted them. Ghent, who once again is the slicer that Han is interested in and that Karrde told Han about, he recognizes Han, and he's young, he's super interested in hearing smuggling stories from him. He kind of tells Han that he's a big fan, wanted to meet him for a long time. So they get to talking, and Han tells him a story about when he and Chewie attacked a Zygerian slave ship. While Han is telling his stories and the group is eating, Karrde gets a call over the comms. He seems a little worried and has to excuse himself, and he takes Mara with him. And right after the two leave the room, this is very interesting, so make sure that you're getting all this. Lando quietly tells Han that he's seen Mara somewhere. He's seen her before, he doesn't know where, he can't quite place her. And as we learned about in the last chapter, Mara was there at Jabba's palace when Luke and Han and Chewie and they were all there in Return of the Jedi. So this is likely where Lando remembers her from, and we as the reader know that because we just read the last chapter and we know that Mara was there and remembers that day, but Lando can't figure it out. He can't quite put his finger on where he's seen her before. So Han tells Lando, well, you need to figure it out, and they're wondering what to do next, and Han is like, well, while we're here, let's just enjoy the food. We'll keep eating. The point of view then switches over to Karrde for a few pages. He's in the comm room with Aves, who has informed him that the Chimera recently came in from Lightspeed and is above the planet. Karrde thinks that Pelion just wants to speak to him, and so he has to be patched through, but he is met by Thrawn. This surprises and worries Karrde a little, but he asks Thrawn what he can do for him. Thrawn tells Karrde that he needs more Salamiri, which remember are the creatures that can negate force abilities. So, like, Force users cannot use the Force if Salamiri are around. And so Thrawn asks Card if they can come down to the planet and gather some more. Card says of course they can, but in the back of his mind, he's a little worried about Han, Lando, and Luke being so close to Thrawn and the Empire. Thrawn then tells Card that while he is there, the two need to sit down and talk, and Thrawn then reveals that he is in need for some warships, and that Card probably has some contacts that can help him out with those. So Card is just shaking in his boots at this point, and he's trying to brush off Thrawn's request, figure out any way he can to just get the Empire in and out as quickly as possible. Thrawn then tells Card that he also wants to talk about why Card and his crew have been refusing to help the Empire search for Luke. Card assures him that they did look but never found anything, and that he was in an X-Wing, so he had to be dead by now because there's no way you could survive in dead space with an X-Wing that doesn't work. Thrawn then tells Card of how the Jedi can go into that hibernation state, that comatose state, and survive long periods of time, and that Luke has to still be alive, so he needs Card's help to search for him. And then Thrawn says that they'll talk more when he arrives. At this point, Card is just worried out of his mind. He commands Mara to oversee preparations for Thrawn's arrival. He wants the Millennium Falcon moved into the forest and cloaked, and he wants Han and Lando moved somewhere safer where Thrawn won't know that they're there. Mara is a bit confused by this and tells Card they should just hand the two over to Thrawn. But Card says that they are their guests and that since they are housing them, they are obligated to protect them for the time being. Card and Mara then talk a little while longer about Thrawn's imminent arrival, and then Card commands her to go do the work he assigned her. So at this point, now the point of view switches over to Luke for a little bit. Since we last saw him, he has rigged up a way to escape from the room he's being held in, using those power cells from his mechanical hand. Hoping that it's going to work, he tries it out, and sure enough, the lock to the door is disengaged and he's free. He goes over to R2's room, and that door isn't locked, like, at all, but R2 does have that restraining collar on so that he can't move. So Luke's able to easily get into the room, get the restraining collar off R2, and then the two devise a plan to sneak over to Luke's X-Wing, get off the planet. After they get out into the forest, R2 uses his scanners to make sure that none of Card's men are around, and R2 does sense a group of them at one point, but he and Luke stay extremely still and are able to wait until they are gone. After they take a few more steps, however, they see Mara, who makes Luke stop dead in his tracks. I mean, he thinks at any moment she's going to turn around and see him, but after she stops and thinks for a minute, it seems like she's contemplating what she wants to do. She ends up walking away, so Luke and R2 are able to continue on. However, once they get to where the X-Wing was, they see that it has been moved, and they have no idea where. Having to think on the fly, Luke then decides that they can just use one of Card's ships in a nearby hangar. They go into the hangar and find a little ship about twice as long as an X-Wing, and Luke and R2 both go and strap in, and Luke begins preparing for takeoff. So we then switch point of views one more time for the remainder of the chapter, and this time we are in Mara's point of view, who has now completed all of the tasks that Card assigned to her. Internally, Mara is thinking that she could just go over to Shed 4 and kill Luke. She could say that he attacked her and she had no choice, and she remembers that she doesn't owe Card anything anyway, so she hates him, she's ready to be done with him, so she's just thinking, I'll just go over there and kill him. So while she's debating on what to do, she's kind of torn, but she's going through different scenarios in her mind. But while she's thinking about everything, she's still walking over towards Shed 4, and she hears a repulsor lift. She thinks that it has to be one of Thrawn's incoming ships, so she looks around, but she doesn't see anything. She then realizes that it's one of their own ships, a skip ray blast boat. At first she thinks, well, Card is sending out an escort for Thrawn, but she doesn't really know why, and then it hits her. She sprints into Shed 4, notices that Luke is gone, and then heads to the hangar herself. And at this point, Luke in the ship, Luke and R2, they've already taken off. So she runs over to the hangar, knowing that they would all be in huge trouble if the Empire found out that Luke is with them. She realizes what she has to do, jumps into the other skip ray, powers it up, and flies after Luke. So that marks the end of chapter 22 of Heir to the Empire, and it's a little bit of a longer chapter than I made it seem in the abridged version. I didn't leave anything important out. We hit all of the major details, all of the important details, but it's a longer chapter, but it flies through it. The pace is so quick in this chapter, specifically because we have to go through 4 point of view characters. There's a few different storylines going on. There's the Han and Lando thing with Card, and then Card talking with Thrawn, and then Luke escaping, and then Mara contemplating if she wants to kill Luke, if she needs to do something else, and then finding out that Luke escaped. So this chapter is just easy to fly right through. And like I said, this is the point where everything kind of starts to come to a head. So moving forward, we'll be getting more into what happens next. And from this point until the end of the book, it's just 100 miles an hour. So this is the most exciting part of reading. When you've read all of these pages, you've read all these chapters, it's been building and building and building, and then you finally reach that climax, and everything just goes crazy. We are at that point, so this is the most exciting part of the story, and I'm so excited to get into the rest of it with you all. I thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed chapter 22, and I hope you've enjoyed the book so far. The most exciting part is finally here. But thank you once again. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a like on the video. We'll be back with another video on chapter 23. May the Force be with you and keep on reading Star Wars.